to Palestine and get hold of the three Hebrew priests, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and brought them up and said, I want you to make this thing work, because apparently they had held some of this secrets of this ancient technology, but they said, hey, you're not our king, you don't believe in our God, we're not going to work for you. So he said, okay, well, I'm just going to throw you in there, and you're either going to make it work or you're going to die. But interestingly enough, it says right there in the Bible, they didn't just throw them into this structure. First, they donned their raiments and their hats, their protective clothing, if you will, and they put them in this energy field. And King Nebuchadnezzar, who didn't want to get anywhere close to it, said, well, are they in there? And his minions said, yes, O king, they're in there. In fact, we put 3 in there, and now there's 4 people in there. He said, well, who's the 4th person? And they said, well, O king, it's the Son of God. Well, wait a minute. Who was this 4th person? Where did he come from? And who was that? And what did they mean by the Son of God? Well, we don't know, because it never tells us anything past that. But apparently they were able to open some sort of a portal, a stargate, and obviously somebody came through there. So, this has given us some tantalizing clues as to what this ancient technology might entail.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this, of course, I come to think of, UFOs and stuff like this, because there might be then a current, of this knowledge running through our history and kind of more like the backdrop or below the surface, so to speak.
That's correct. And also, Hendrik, have you considered this? Most of the reports of UFOs are actually pretty small craft. Okay? Yeah. There's no sign of any engines or jets or fuel or anything like that. And in fact, there's never been even any reports of them containing a bathroom. Okay? So it seems quite realistic to say that these craft are not intergalactic craft. They're not big enough, they're not well supplied enough to go for hundreds of years between galaxies. So it would seem that they are essentially shuttlecraft that are only made to travel short distances in brief time periods, and that would indicate that they were using something other than ramjet technology.
So, I mean, do you think that if we were to talk more about the UFO phenomena, I mean, obviously it's impossible to nail it down like that, because the phenomenon itself always seem to go in another direction when you think you got it nailed down. But
that's right. Then it'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, this energy manipulation could explain so much of the phenomena that's in the literature, such as these people being able to pass through walls, missing time, again, the fact that electrical devices cease to function when this energy field is present, and they are manipulating energy, is what they're doing. And this is what the people within our military-industrial complex and within the intelligence community, they desperately want to get their hands on this technology, and they don't want to give it to their perceived enemies, so they cannot make it public.
That's quite a dilemma there, because it could be used, I guess, in some sense. One would suggest that if such technology were available, that they would be using it in wars and so forth.
Absolutely.
But that might not then be the reason for why they are, why they have developed the technology. Because if they're, as you say, if they're all the same guys at the top, the most important thing, I guess, is to have us, the rest of humanity, fighting amongst ourselves and having these wars with old technology, so to speak, and they can, fly around in their UFOs doing their thing.
Right. And I'll tell you what I feel like is the reason for the secrecy about UFOs, and of course that's been led by the United States. The United States has applied pressure to many other countries not to talk about UFOs. They have not been entirely successful. Mexico has been at the forefront of being very open and public about the UFOs, and their defense minister went on television a few years ago, showed camera film from some fighter interceptors, and said they were chasing UFOs. the French, of course, came out with their Cometa report a few years ago, and although they were quick to say this was not an official government report, nevertheless, the people involved in that study were past and present members of the French government, and they said that the UFOs are real and that they represent devices coming from somewhere else and being guided by non-human intelligences. So other nations have been more forthcoming than the United States. And I think the reason for this secrecy is that we're back to these secret societies and to these wealthy elites that want to maintain their power and control over the rest of humanity. And they have this power and control thanks to their wealth, and their wealth is derived from their monopolies over energy, transportation, pharmaceuticals, etc. And so I don't think they really care if we know that there are, say, aliens out there. They don't care.
Yeah.
What they care about is if we know there are aliens out there, then we know for certain that there's alternative technologies out there which might then threaten their monopolies.
So, I mean, do you consider at all that there actually might be aliens in that sense behind the, let's say, the structure, or when the first secret societies became when they spread throughout the world, that right at the top, I guess, of the pyramid, that there might be an alien race or some we could be talking still about a rogue network, but of non-humans.
Well, now you're talking very closely now, sounding like David Icke.
Yeah.
That these reptilians are trying to control us.
Yeah.
I'll say, I have a hard enough problem trying to convince people that 9/11 was an inside job and that the war on terror is basically a sham.
Yeah.
And I have enough sense of public relations that I don't think I'm going to win friends and influence a lot of people by publicly calling the Queen Mother of England a 200-year-old reptilian cannibal.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But in the same breath, I have to say that I cannot categorically deny all that, because when you track back the families and the bloodlines, you find that the people who are now trying to bring us into the New World Order belong to these secret societies such as the Council on Foreign Relations, Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Bilderbergers, which involve a lot of the nobility of Europe. And you find that these people all track to older secret societies such as the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and all of that stemmed from the world's first great secret society, the Knights Templar, who has been well documented as having gained secret knowledge from their excavations under the old Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem during the First Crusade.
Yeah.
And all of that wealth, that treasure, which was not only gold and silver and precious stones, but also knowledge in the form of tablets and scrolls and ancient writings that predated Greece and Egypt and go back to the Sumerians and even back perhaps past that, then all of a sudden you can see that there is a linkage that brings from the ancient past right up to the very present.
Exactly. And so do you think that if you want to speculate, what kind of knowledge do you think that they were able to extract from under the Temple Mount?
Well, for example, what we are now learning is the secrets of the monatomic elements. Okay, these are single atom elements that are found in all heavy metals, including gold, silver, the platinum metals, and they have found that through a heating process, these can be reduced to a fine white powder. And this white powder, when it's placed on a weighing pan, a scale, the pan actually weighs less than it did before you put the powder in it, which means it has anti-gravity properties that can be transmitted outside of itself. So all of a sudden we begin to realize maybe that, for example, maybe that's how they were able to move those huge multi-ton stones that make up the pyramid, that make up the big, huge edifice at